you make a case, and this is one reason why I like both your work and your book, is that you didn't do what some people do, is like, hey, this stuff's going on, and you know, let's hope for the best. Instead, you actually make the case and say, okay, here's what you need. Number one, you need a new narrative. Number two, you need a coalition of countervailing interests. And then number three, you need some policies you're going for. So let's start with number one. What is the conventional narrative, and then what do you think the new narrative should be or has to be?
Thank you, Andrew. I think that's really, to me, 50% of the fight is that new narrative. And that means, first of all, we agree on what are feasible and desirable aspirations. And there, I think, to me, that's quite obvious. We want AI and other new technologies, but especially AI, to go in a pro-human direction, be a tool in the hands of humans from all backgrounds, make them more productive, more informed, better citizens, better workers, not disempower them, empower them. I think we have to agree on this. Again, not everybody would agree with that. Some people may agree on the outside, but in the inside they say, no, wouldn't it be better if we could just eliminate these workers? And some people would say that's not feasible. Then we get into some technical discussions. That's why, in the book we go back to the sort of competing visions of what machines and what digital technologies are about. Are they going to be inevitable, autonomous, machine intelligent type of objects, or could they be tools for humans, machines that are useful to humans? I think those two visions are going to be central to it. And then once we agree on this aspiration, I think the narrative is about whether, if there is something good, technology will naturally go to it, sort of the techno-optimist view, or whether we can entrust it to some techno geniuses, be it Sam Altman today, or whether it was Bill Gates in the past. So sort of great people, obviously very creative, but can we entrust them? Because they're going to follow their own vision, they're going to follow their own interests, and if we just entrust them, if we trust them too much, if we empower them too much, then alternative voices are going to be drowned. So the narrative is about what we want and how society can have a voice in it via the competitive process, new firms entering, but also through sort of deliberation, the democratic process, the media, civil society organizations, podcasts, people sort of expressing their concerns, their views, their alternative paths towards it.
You talk about, look, there's a handful of technologists that kind of dominate the discourse, and they naturally will not be making this more human-centered case. So let's say that you have a human-centered case, and you say we should be at the center of the set of innovation, and we shouldn't expect this just to magically happen, which, by the way, I see all the time out there. I'm sure you do too. It's like, oh, don't worry, magical stuff, invisible hand. I was like, look, the invisible hand is just gonna scrub out a lot of people on this one.
The invisible hand, and if you question it, you're a Luddite. Yes.
Yeah, no. Hey, take it from the MIT economics professor. You might need to do a little more. So then you have this coalition of interests who come together, and I guess you cited many of them just now, where you talk about various interest groups, which at this point should be most of us, since I think most of us realize that we're somewhat subject to this, and then clear policy goals, and you make cases for some pretty big policy investments, including strengthening the social safety net in the U.S.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I think the narrative has to change. You need this to be embedded in an institutional grounding, countervailing powers, better working democracy. But at the end of the day, technology is not going to take care of itself unless you want to just follow the same path. So you need some sort of inducements for different types of new technologies to emerge and the current equilibrium to be modified. So for that, we need policies. We need the right policies. Nobody knows what these policies are. And there's a very good reason for that, because we haven't been experimenting with them. Everybody says, oh, well, I accept now that we need some AI regulation, but we don't know what AI regulation should look like because we have completely abrogated our responsibility to regulate digital technologies for at least the last 2 2 decades, probably more. So those policies have to be viewed as ideas that need to be explored more. But again, the objectives are very clear. This country has reached a level of inequality and poverty that's really unacceptable in the 21st century with such great abundance that exists around us. So we have to strengthen the social safety net, absolutely. But there, I also think it's not just a social safety net, because I don't think a society in which earned income is very, very unequal, and then we just create a somewhat more equal distribution by taxes and transfers would be a happy one. It would create a huge status inequality. It would be always subject to inequality again exploding even more, and the political equilibrium being captured by the people who have the income. And quite honestly, I actually think we can do better, because if we can use AI in a more pro-human, pro-worker direction, I think we can create the kinds of good jobs that were the mainstay of the middle class existence that the United States was so good at for most of the post-war era.
Hey YouTube, glad you're enjoying the podcast. If you really like it, hit subscribe, and then YouTube will notify you every time we have a bang up new guest. Thank you.